Well, hello. Mike Dowler here. This is nextbigthingradio.net coming to you from Los Angeles. Welcome to the podcast and to the live show at nextbigthingradio.net. It's been a long day. And joined by Brett, somewhere outside of Dallas, Texas. Brett, good evening.
Yes, sir. How's it going, Mike?
Doing well. We finally got this thing up. It was a lot of work. And,
yeah, that was a lot of work's an understatement, my friend. I had a slight hiccup with the website, as you know, and went down for about 2 hours and finally got that back up, and took about another 6 for me to get it to where it's at now. But it is a work in progress, but we're getting it pulled up there.
Want to thank Jason as well. Jason did help you out getting things online, and
Jason
we did have the initial problem, but now it's perfect.
It'll work for now. It'll keep evolving as we go along, and I learn new things on how to run HTML and WordPress and all that jazz. So
exactly. So we're so glad you guys are here. We are streaming live, as obviously you probably found out, at nextbigthingradio.net. You can like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. You know, if you get those two confused, it can be kind of confusing, Brett. Because you don't want to follow on Facebook and like us on Twitter. That's not possible, is it?
I don't think that's possible, no.
So, again, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and we'll all be happy campers. Glad to have you here. This is the first episode of Conversations, a weekly podcast, sometimes live, with real unique, interesting guests and really unique interviews, conversational, making it all about the guest. And I think when Brett and I first talked about the show, we kind of decided we wanted to go that way. Am I right,
I
Brett?
figured there's not enough podcasts out there, and radio shows in general out there that focus just on the guest. You know, they kind of cater to their own antics, and instead of letting the guest kind of have control of the show and, you know, decide kind of where they want to go, what they want to talk about. You know, obviously we'll have some basic pointers that we'll hit on every guest, but
exactly,
just kind of make it all about the guest instead of our antics. If they happen to flow over into it, hey, you know, even better.
And again, as we mentioned, we are online live right now. If you're hearing this, obviously you know that. nextbigthingradio.net. Like us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter. If you have any comments, you can email us as well. Again, long day. nextbigthingradio@gmail.com. nextbigthingradio@gmail.com. There's also a comment section on our website. You can go there and send us a message that way. Love to hear from you. Really, the listeners are going to dictate a lot of what we do on here. And as we grow, as our programming grows, our listenership will grow as well, too. So tell your friends. Speaking of, go ahead.
If you have any, sorry about that. If you have any suggestions on, you know, questions you want to hear us ask the guests, guests you'd like to have on air, you know, or if you are, you know, a local artist, an independent artist, whatever you want to call it, you know, give us a shout. Shoot us a media package over at to our Gmail, and we'll be more than happy to take a look at it and see what we can do about getting you on. Our first guest here, though, is what's that?
Well, the guest is actually a host.
Yeah. He actually a long time ago. He's actually a good friend of mine. Is the guy that actually got me involved in internet radio, Mr. Joe Burke. Joe, how you doing tonight, man?
I'm too blessed to be stressed. How about you, man?
I'm right there with you, my friend.
Joe, how are you?
I'm good, man.
Your audio went kind of wonky there, but that's okay.
It sounds like it's on your end, brother. But
right? Really?
Yeah.
Could be.
Yeah.
But you know, it's I've been doing very well. Been getting active here in the Orlando area. I work now in media at my local church and get involved there in some men's ministry. And, you know, just kind of thriving, I guess, here in Central Florida and enjoying it, embracing it, and just loving life. I'm at a good spot right now.
Now, Joe, you grew up in Kentucky. You're a Kentucky boy. You
Yes, I am. Yeah.
are from Whitesburg, Kentucky. We
Yep.
first met, must be 2008, maybe 2008 probably. You were working for a station there in Whitesburg, involved with that, and found you just out of the blue, and there you were. And before I knew it, I was executive producer on your internet program for Bounce Radio back in the day. And some really great shows, many of which are still available online, which is really cool. I went to the day and checked that.
Many of which I was also a part of at that point in time as well.
I will agree, Brett was involved too. But you made a geographic. You met a special lady a few years ago, and you tied the knot.
I did. I met through Blue Man Group. Just getting involved. I don't know if we mentioned that or not, but I was heavily involved over 12 years with the world of theatrical entertainment production called Blue Man Group, and through that, I at the same time I done podcasts myself. I done Switchback Radio podcast, which was syndicated by Blue Man Group, and it's been an amazing journey just to kind of look back and see, because I did radio for 8 years on FM WMMT, and when I moved to Florida, prior to moving to Florida, I started looking into internet radio, and I had some really cool moments in doing internet radio, and met some really awesome people like yourself, Mike, and got to interview some amazing. Oh, I can't even begin. Bethany Hamilton, who I've actually got to finally meet here at my church, which was weird and awkward.
Did she recall the interview?
Oh yeah, she knew.
Awesome.
And
awesome.
But even Brewer and Shipley, Rebecca Julia Brown from School of Rock, all these amazing talents, and Todd Rundgren of all people, you know. Bang on Your Drum All Day, everybody knows that song. Of course,
exactly.
It's not his forte, but
the story on that song was he wrote that song in a dream. It was part of a dream he dreamt it.
Yeah.
That's how it was. That was wrong. But again, it's the Todd man. He did it.
But kind of bringing things back retrospectively. I mean, next big thing kind of started. I think it started on the previous radio station, and it just kind of grew into something. And for the past few years, it's not really taken off in many areas. And it's good to see the project kind of take off with a new spin and with a new vibe and a new crew. And it really gives me a lot of joy to see you guys getting involved like this.
And we definitely appreciate you letting us take over the helm at that, Joe. We talked a couple times about possibly using different names or what to come up with, and you're actually the reason I got involved in internet radio was because of you and Bounce, and that was my first exposure to it, and I fell in love with it, honestly.
Yeah.
And just been kind of doing it for different stations over the years, and finally decided to break off on my own. But I gotta credit Joe with introducing me to it and kind of taking it from there, man.
Well, we did the right thing by creating our own network, because if we had let it go somewhere else, we wouldn't have ownership of it, which means that whoever was on or what network we used, they could basically tell us how to run it, and we really didn't want that.
Well, that's a beautiful thing about it. That's a beautiful thing about the podcast, is because you have 100% control over the product that you produce.
Right.
And whatever you say, whatever you do, whoever you interview, you control that 100%. And that's a beautiful thing. And when you're on live radio, even though you can record it, there's some aspects of it you can't edit. With the podcast, you have the beauty of going back and polishing it off. I mean, anything worthwhile is worth polishing and making it even better. And
exactly.
and that's the whole realm of doing a podcast. And I did over 117 Switchback podcasts.
Wow.
And it was crazy. It was really that many, yeah. And as a matter of fact, a lot of people may recall the website that was famous a few years ago, the Wayback Machine. But if you go
Yes.
to archive.org, which is now kind of the newer branded Wayback Machine, if you go to archive.org and type in Switchback, you can actually find it. Some of the old podcasts I did with Bethany Hamilton and Todd.
Yeah,
Lundgren.
actually, if you Google them, you can find them too, which is amazing.
Yeah.
So this stuff is still out there.
Yeah.
All these years later.
All these years later.
It's again amazing. You did some great shows, and it was really fun to be involved and produce for you. And I really like producing. I'd much rather produce than interview. And at that time, that worked out perfect because I could give you guests, and you just went ahead and ran with it. And some really good ones. I mean, the guests were always very, very happy and cordial afterwards, and really enjoyed you as an interviewer, as a host. And I do give you that. Want to mention real fast, guys. Good evening. This is nextbigthingradio.net. We are live online. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. Send us an email at nextbigthingradio@gmail.com. Love to hear from you. And I almost said net, so but it's .com. nextbigthingradio@gmail.com. So, Joe, you made the move to Florida. Again, Florida, very different than Whitesburg, Kentucky. Is there a culture shock, so to speak?
Well, kinda, sorta, not really, because I worked at this company in Whitesburg, and it's one of those rare gems that is just hidden in the foothills of the Appalachians, and it was called the Apple Shop. And the Apple Shop is kind of a cultural, diversified organization. It's a nonprofit 501c, and they done all kinds of interims with foreign educational students from Myanmar, from across in India and stuff like that. So I got, it really wasn't a culture shock moving down here, because I'm sure, like it is in Las Vegas and Los Angeles and Dallas, you got a large group of ethnic people around you,
right?
Mm-hmm.
And I was kind of always exposed to that early on, even working at the Apple Shop. So moving here, it's here, it's in greater scale, but it just I don't even really think about it, honestly. I do live 20 minutes from Orlando. As a matter of fact, about an hour and a half ago, I heard the fireworks over the horizon from the Magic Kingdom. I live 25 minutes from Walt Disney World, and I live another 25 minutes from Universal Studios Orlando. So I'm right there. I mean, I'm 1 hour and 20 minutes from both sides of the coast from where I'm located.
That's
so
awesome.
I can go to Cocoa one day and Clearwater the next and cover both sides of the coast.
So
it's
How you
pretty
handling
awesome.
the weather there? Do you miss the snow?
No.
Yeah. Does anybody miss the snow? I mean, come on.
Dude, I am so Florida acclimated. It's really stupid. Because I remember when I was in Kentucky and we would have 60-degree weather, and I was still wearing shorts, and I'm like, oh man, this is great.
Mm-hmm.
And here, when it gets in the 60s, I'm like, oh my God, it's freaking cold. And but I'm like wearing coats and pants, and I'm like, this is crazy.
I laugh because I had the same issue when I was in Vegas. I'm originally from Chicago, and it's 60 degrees out. It feels great.
Yeah. You wear t-shirts and a short. Yeah.
Exactly. I went to Vegas, it's 120 in the summer, and then in the winter, hit 60 degrees, everybody's all bundled up. I'm throwing on a sweatshirt. I'm thinking back going, I used to be walking around in a t-shirt and shorts barefoot outside. What happened?
And the difference
I grew up
is
in San Francisco, so I moved to LA to get away from the fog, and much warmer here than it is in the Bay Area. So, but loving Southern California for sure.
Well, I think the difference is the humidity.
Yeah.
I mean, it's Florida's just damp. I mean, even in the winter, it's very humid.
Yeah, it's the same here in Dallas, man. Dallas, the humidity was the biggest shock for me when I moved here.
Yeah.
Compared to Vegas, it was
But I mean, I've actually since I moved here, getting back with the question and kind of bringing everything full circle, which is kind of really what I'm good at. But I moved here to Orlando, and I got plugged into a really awesome church. It's really dynamic. We have over 10,000 people in our church, and it's really awesome to be able to share the good news in that way, and to represent, my boss upstairs in such a dynamic way. And I think honestly, being in this kind of environment has empowered me to kind of stretch my arms a little bit, and make things that I was uncomfortable with before more comfortable now. Dealing with my health issues, and now being more proactive in that, and kind of being an advocate along those lines, and starting my own advocacy for those kinds of things. So it's really It's been awesome. It's been an awesome journey. Continues to be.
Speaking
and
of
that's
your
what it is.
advocacy here, Joe, you started you've had hepatitis C and HIV for a number of years, and obviously as long as I've known you, but for many years before that.
Yeah.
You just went through a whole bunch of experimental tests. They're basically drugs that rid you of the Hep C. Kind of talk about your journey about that.
Yeah. Well, at age 2, I don't know if you guys recall the famous little boy from Kokomo, Indiana, Ryan White. He kind of befriended Elton John, Michael Jackson. He was on the Phil Donahue show, but he was banned from school because he had AIDS and contracted HIV through contaminated blood products. And I pretty much, even though I didn't have the national exposure, I kind of had a mirrored life of Ryan White. And, I was bullied in high school a fair amount. And, but getting these 2 viruses at age 2, I mean, it really changes your perspective on everything. And living with them for over 30 some years is just, you kind of get into a mental state of where this is the new normal. This is how you're supposed to live. And then when you get rid of one of them, you're like, oh, what the heck just happened? My body's on overload. I can't control it. I have too much energy. I need to stop. I need to cut the grass. I need to wash the dishes. I need to paint the walls. What's going on here? So it's one of those crazy things where I've been readjusting the whole year because my body is just adapting to a new state of normality. And, but I was on an experimental drug called Sovaldi, which is $1,000 a pill. And, I started on January the 21st, and I ended therapy on July the 7th. It was a 24-week therapy. And experimental, the drug just got released on December the 13th, 2013. So literally just 3 weeks later, after the drug was released by the FDA, I was put on this drug. And it was so quick. But praise God, the doctor, said, yes, you are a candidate. You are healthy. You are active. You have all the check marks. And 4 weeks into the therapy, the virus was gone. It was undetected, and it has remained gone since then. January, I want to say the second week in January, I go for some final lab work, and if it's still undetected by then, they're going to use the word cure.
Wow.
So, I'm just, I'm just, like I said earlier, even before I talked about this, I'm just living the dream. I'm a vessel, I'm a tool, and whatever happens, happens. And, if I can give God the glory through this, then hey, I'm all for it.
Well, you went through a rough time there, Joe, for sure. And you became very vocal about your journey later on.
Mm-hmm.
You did a video a while back that came out, and I know that was one of the first I knew that you had these issues, and it sounds like you're really just doing great, and thank goodness for modern medicine.
Yeah, really.
To help you out.
Yeah, I started this whole campaign. I do public speaking for educational purposes, like in schools and conferences and through the local chapters of the Hemophilia Foundation. I do speaking on bullying and dealing with these kinds of issues as coming up into like a middle-aged adult. I'll be 35 in like literally 10 days. So it's doctor says I wouldn't live past 18. Here I am coming up on 35, and I'm just
almost
I
double
mean,
their prediction.
Yeah.
Great.
And now that hepatitis is gone, I don't have to worry about transplants, cirrhosis,
Right.
end-stage liver disease, yada, yada, yada. So
That's
all that's
awesome.
just, totally gone. But I started a campaign called I Strive to Thrive, and it's basically I'm striving to thrive every day and live in the moment. And
That's wonderful.
and it's I Strive, the number 2 thrive.com, and it's like iPad, I Strive to Thrive,
And
But
What are
we'll
the
have
numbers? What are the
we'll have a
numbers
link up
show? I
on-
mean, what you have or what you had. How many people are affected by that? 'Cause it's got to be a lot. I mean, I know that.
Well, in my group of people, hemophiliacs, which is 98% male, because there's a very small percentage that get female hemophilia. There were 10,000 hemophiliacs nationwide that contracted HIV, hepatitis C, or both. Okay, now
Okay.
I was in the category of both.
Mhm.
But of those 10,000 people total, they call it the hemophilia holocaust of the 80s. Of those 10,000 people, less than 1.8% are alive today.
Wow. For those of you that are a little tough on math, that's under 100 people.
About
Yeah.
112, 120, somewhere in that neck of the woods, I think, last time.
Wow.
And that's just what we can gather from the local clinics, the hemophilia treatment centers. That's what we can kind of guesstimate. I mean, I'm sure that there's some out in the sticks and out in the suburbs, but that's roughly vaguely a number. So
On the
10,000 to
HIV
120.
side, are we better off now than we were, say, 20 years ago? As far as
Oh man, HIV has just made leaps and bounds. I mean, it just, and I do support our president. I do, even though there's things he's done that I don't necessarily agree with and all that. I won't get into politics, but he did make one statement that just makes me have so much respect for him. He said by the time he's out of office in 2017, he wants to have a cure for HIV.
That's
Well, I hope
awesome.
And so he has put so much funding into finding this cure. And I know, and I believe in my lifetime there'll be, if they can cure hepatitis, then daggone it, they're going to cure this. So, there's new drugs that's out on the market now. I'm on the same regimen Magic Johnson's on, which is, I recently found that out. He done an interview online, I think through Clear Health Alliance or one of his advocate campaigns that he does, and he openly said, well, I'm on this, this, and this, and I was like, holy crap, that's what I'm on. And so, but there's new drugs that's coming out every day to treat and battle HIV, and some of them, Truvada, which is a new one that basically there's a big controversy right now surrounding Truvada because it's kind of in the club world promoting promiscuous, because you can go out and live any kind of lifestyle you want and then go and take the pill and you don't have to worry about getting something, basically.
Well,
So-
that's the thing as well. I think, when HIV first came out on the scene and the AIDS and the whole thing, the attitudes were very, very different. People were very afraid. Don't touch me. Don't breathe on me.
Can't sit on
like
the
you
same
said,
toilet seat. Don't kiss me. Don't drink from the same glass. And
Don't go to
See,
you can't go to school anymore.
that fear was alive and well into the 2000s. When I first met Joe, I had no idea what it was. I'll be honest. When I first met Joe, I was kind of a little reserved about it because I didn't do enough research into it. But the more I got to talking to you and getting to know you, I realized that it's not. You can't get it just by skin to skin contact. You can't.
And let's keep it real here for a second too. Let's be open and honest. I've been married for 5 years, and when you're married, you do stuff. Okay, let's just put it out on the table. But my wife, she is a nurse. She's highly intelligent, and she is clean as a whistle. And so it's not from saliva. There's so many stupid myths and rumors out there about those kinds of things, and that's kind of what I do too. I kind of break down those barriers. I mean, the late 90s and into the 2000s, like Brett said, it kind of put a wall around the whole AIDS HIV community. And
It
so
really did.
it did. And so 90% of it is really not true.
Right.
So, it's so hard to try to get something like that. And my beautiful wife, I mean, we've been married, coming up next year, we'll be married 5 years, and she is just as happy and healthy, and she's undetected on all streams. So, she does, I mean, as a proactive husband, I do make her get tests every year just to keep my own peace of mind. But at the same time, I know there's something deep down inside of me saying there's really no need for her to get them. I'm just doing this just for my own brain, just make it shut up. But, it's an amazing time we live in, and my HIV has been undetected since 1998. And when I mean undetected, that means it's not detectable by any modern. The viral marker shows positive on the test. It's still there. If I was to stop taking the medication, it would come back. But it's like you're playing a video game and you hit pause, or it's like you're watching a movie and you hit pause. That's basically what the drugs do. It puts it on a pause, and it doesn't activate until you do something, and you change that up. So basically, I've been on a permanent pause since 1998.
Let's stop down for just 1 second, guys. Hang on just a second, Brett. I want to remind folks we're talking to Joe Burke, all the way from Orlando, Florida. This is nextbigthingradio.net. We are streaming live on the web at our website, nextbigthingradio.net. Drop us a line if you'd like, and that's nextbigthingradio, nextbigthingradio@gmail.com. Like us on Facebook, and go ahead and follow us on Twitter. And again, talking to Joe Burke, Mike here, along with Brett, and this is Conversations on Next Big Thing Radio. And Brett, you've known Joe as long as I have. Has Joe always had this positive outlook on things? I think he does.
I've known Joe. I would say
2005, 2006.
It was 2004 when I found the Blue Man fan community. I first saw my first Blue Man Group show in Chicago in 2004, and it struck a chord with me, and immediately I went online and found the fan community. I really didn't become active until about spring of 2005, and that's when I found Joe, and that's when that whole thing was starting to take off, and so I've gotten to know Joe since then, but he's definitely come a long way since then. He did have it, we've all had our dark times. He helped me through some of mine, and I'm definitely thankful for that.
And you helped me through some of mine too, brother.
And I can't thank him enough for that. Obviously, one of the reasons I'm still here is that fan community that he created. The people through that I met through that.
I didn't create it. You guys did.
Well, you helped. you helped it along its way.
Well, I gave you a message board and I said, "Here, post," and you guys started posting. So I was like, "Great, this is a community. This is fantastic."
Let's talk Blue Man for a Group just for a second. And again, Blue Man Group, as most of you know, performs in Las Vegas. I think they're at
Chicago.
Treasure Island, correct?
No, they're at the Monte Carlo.
Monte Carlo. I stand corrected. But there are two companies. Is that correct?
Well, there is one entity, but there is a touring company that is kind of overseen by headquarters in New York. But Blue Man Group is actually officially based out of New York. So you've got New York, Boston, Orlando, Chicago, Las Vegas, Berlin, and as well as a national touring production that's still going strong. So, I mean, the company is actually, just as a matter of fact, this past weekend I was at the Orlando show with a couple of friends, never seen the show before, and kind of a pre-birthday gift to myself.
It's always fun.
So if I start the Green Man Group, would I get sued?
Probably.
Well, if you start the Green Man suit, you probably will have FEMA and hazmat and Ebola trucks coming at your house. It's like, not going to be dark. All right, if you're turning green, something's not right here.
So did you tour with the group? Or
Actually, I did tour with the group. I toured with the group roughly about a year and a half, maybe close to 2 years. with their national. If you go on blueman.com, they have this national tour. But I did get the honor and privilege to tour to cities like Pittsburgh, Dallas, Chicago, Las Vegas, Denver, Colorado, Fayetteville, Arkansas, New York City. All these amazing, beautiful cities. And Blue Man Group gave my wife and I that awesome privilege to just go tour the nation and go backstage, hang out with the guys, do some on-the-spot interviews for the fan community, and just honestly, it was one of the best times of my life, and I have Blue Man Group to thank for that.
Tell me about the paint, the blue paint they wear. What is it like? Is it dry or is it always wet, or how does that work?
It's a basic foundation grease paint, and it's made by Maron Makeup. So basically, it's a bald cap. And those of you that's into makeup and doing cowl designs and all that stuff, well, you know what a bald cap is. You have to put the bald cap on before you put the prosthetic on. So it's basically a bald cap, but they don't cut out the ear portion, and they put it on with just a basic glue, and well, it's not a basic glue, but it's a form of glue that they use, and then they just use a foundation grease paint, and then they seal it up, and it becomes the Blue Man.
Wow,
it's a really interesting process. I know there's some really cool videos on YouTube of one of the Chicago Blue Men, Boomer. He's actually the Blue Man captain out there, getting ready to go into blue, and it's kind of a neat process. Being a fan to actually, it's neat to be able to see that.
Oh yeah.
For their 20th anniversary, Blue Man Group actually flew myself, Joe, and Alex, a good friend of Joe's of mine, Paul Fix, and a half a dozen others out to Chicago, or out to New York City. And actually, I kept Paul's being there a secret from Joe for 3.5 months.
I don't know how you did that, dude.
That was the hardest thing I've ever had to do.
Oh man, I'm telling you, when it was hard for me to open up to people, and we're talking like 2004, 2005 here.
Mm-hmm.
When it was hard for me to open up to people in my little hometown of Kentucky, because I couldn't just go to the Apple shop and say, "Hey, I have hemophilia, I have all this," and my hometown was 2,500 people. Everybody knew. I couldn't go to the local gas station what somebody didn't know me, and so it was kind of a small town. You have this, I don't want to say local celebrity thing, but yeah, that's basically what it was. And my father and my family, we were a traveling gospel ministry. We were the Singing Burke family. We were on television like I would say every 2 to 3 weeks. We were on, and this television station covered literally half of Kentucky. So it was weird, This whole thing is just weird, and I have no idea. I'm going on a weird tangent. I'm sorry. I need to.
That's all right.
I was actually going to start bringing that up. You've been a musician for many years, Joe. I've loved your music since the first time I heard it. To be honest with you, you've got some great stuff out there, man. Well, why don't you touch on that a little bit and where that's going now, and have you been doing any kind of writing or anything lately?
Well,
maybe.
If you've seen pictures of the man cave, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that was my studio.
Oh.
So I haven't recorded anything in probably 8 to 9 months. And so,
wow.
But as a matter of fact, I do have some projects in the wing. There is a silver beacon at the end of this. I'm in the process now of reestablishing my gear and getting everything set up in a makeshift studio where I can go and I can freely record. And I'm really excited about it. And I got some collaborations. There is a group down here, weirdly enough, half of them work for Blue Man Productions.
Boy, that sounds planned.
They're musicians. We got everything from drummers to fiddlists to guitarists to bassists to soloists to vocalists to writers to musicians, you name it. Everybody pulls together, and this project is called Songs on Sunday. and it's founded by Blue Man Group veteran Jordan Woods Robinson. And Jordan has actually been a Blue Man for quite some time, and he was one of the original founders of the Orlando venue that back in 2007. Well, he started this project called Songs on Sunday, and literally every Sunday we have 7 days to create a song. So basically on Sunday night, we are sent out an email. All right, here's an idea. Here's a tagline. Here's a tidbit. Mm-hmm. Write something. Make it happen. And so
what comes first? Is it the music or the lyrics?
It could be a WAV file of a beat. It could be a WAV file of somebody, dun chicka dun chicka dun. I mean, it's the most weirdest thing. And then you take that and you make a song out of it. And I actually honestly had the privilege about 6 months ago to collaborate with Jordan Woods Robinson, Colin Robinson, who you may recognize as the drummer from Blue Man Group Toronto, who is now the drummer for Blue Man Group Orlando, actually played drums on this song. And the song is called Rhyme or Reason, and you can find that on songsonsunday.com.
And we're going to check out that track right now. You're listening to Conversations on Next Big Thing Radio with Brett and Mike.
There's no rhyme or reason to picking up pennies, just like Friday the 13th. You're scared of missing 40, so you knock on wood while you cross your 2 fingers. Make a wish on a wishbone, but don't break any mirror this time. But things have changed. Eat black peas, New Year's Eve, a clover with 4 leaves, a rabbit's foot on your keys, and you always cry over milk when it spills. And just like Revelation 6's give you the chills. It's hard to climb when you're climbing uphill, but it still makes you feel like you are running a trail. You're like a spinning wheel. You've lost all your zeal, like you're on death row. Oh, waiting your last meal. You stop to take a breath as you think of your death. That's when you realize that you have nothing left, and so you visualize this newfound quest. Don't mean to spiritualize, but it seems you've been blessed. It's hard to climb when you're climbing uphill, but it still makes you feel like you are running a trail. You're like a spinning wheel. You've lost all your zeal, like you're on death row. Oh, waiting your last meal. You stop to take a breath as you think of your death. That's when you realize that you have nothing left, and so you visualize this newfound quest. Don't mean to spiritualize, but it seems you've been blessed. Those superstitions, why do they mean so much? Like you have no ambition. You stop trying, you're stuck. Follow your intuition and try to believe that it's free to get down on your knees and say please. Don't think you understand what it means to be saved. You're a slave to the grave. That's where Messiah was raised, but you don't have to stay. Now that would be treason. A sinner without a savior's like a rhyme without reason. It's hard to climb when you're climbing uphill, but it still makes you you are running a trail. You're like a spinning wheel. You've lost all your zeal, like you're on death row. Oh, waiting your last meal. You stop to take a breath as you think of your death. That's when you realize that you have nothing left, and so you visualize this newfound quest. Don't mean to spiritualize, but it seems you've been blessed. It's hard to climb when you're climbing uphill, but it still makes you feel like you are running a trail. You're like a spinning
her back from playing my song. That's great. No, I'm just messing. No, I'm just teasing with
That
you.
was a nice segue. So,
All
Joe,
Yes.
how's married life? I wanted to ask you.
Do you want the censored version or do you want the
Somewhere in
let's
between.
keep it
Rated E, okay.
PG-13.
Somewhere in between, obviously.
Sweetheart? It is fabulous.
Awesome.
Yes.
Great. What are any
I
plans?
go ye forth and multiply without the multiply.
Yeah, any plans for kids?
No.
What's going on with that? No kids.
Negative. No children.
Maybe a dog, cat.
We have 2 dogs. We have 2 chihuahuas.
Ooh.
That hardly qualifies as a
One of them
dog.
is laying right by my side as we speak. I have.
Why would you go with chihuahuas though? Aren't they kind of hyper?
Oh no, man! It's all in how you have to see. My wife has had chihuahuas her whole life, and so she's got the knack for raising them, and she knows how to train them. And one of the things with chihuahuas is you have to get them when they're very, very young and train them. And if you train, and then, like if you go and you get one from like PetSmart or an adoption place, you know, you're going to get one that's not probably been trained that well. And I'll be honest with you, my little dog here, have you even heard her one time since I've been on the radio?
Well, you probably sedated her.
Occasionally, but
No, she's been, no, seriously, she's laying on my side. And she's laid here the entire time.
My neighbor's got 3 of them, and they're like the most nervous dogs in the world.
I can make her howl for you, though.
Really? That's compelling radio, for sure.
But I won't do that because it might.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
But I'm glad you're living the dream there in Florida.
Thriving, son.
That's
Thriving.
awesome.
glad to hear that, man.
Yeah, I know it's late there too. It's wow, 11:40.
Yeah.
That's not late, man. I'm just getting started.
You're just getting started.
Joe's like
scaring me. Watch out, World Joe's on the loose in
No,
Florida.
I usually go to bed about 3 to 4 a.m.
Oh, I can't do that.
Yeah.
I get up
That's the
before
time I'm getting off of work. Mike called
Yeah.
me at 9:30 this morning, local time here, and he's like, "Oh, you sleep late there in Texas." I'm thinking to myself, "No, I just got up at 4:00 in the afternoon because I didn't go to bed till 6 a.m."
Yeah, and I'm sorry for that. I gave you a
That's
rash of shit.
all right.
I know it was a whole rant, but
That's all
Hey.
right.
it's hard when you're, thousands of miles away. And
Oh,
you got
no,
a show that's going to start in 8 hours.
Dude, try doing a podcast live on the radio with fans from the UK
oh,
and
that's always fun.
Australia. I mean, it's
6 hours
it's
ahead and 8 hours behind.
Yeah, it's so crazy. It will mess your head up. So
That's
you
going
have
to be our challenge, I think. as
you have to
well.
literally do interviews at like 9 a.m.
Yeah.
or like
Yeah.
at 3 a.m.
Right.
So
Right, just to work around their schedules. It's interesting.
And I want to say happy Thursday
It'll be
to our friends
Friday.
in not Florida, Australia, New Zealand, down under. So then you got another challenge there
good day.
as well. Good day, come and say good day. Aussie, 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 oi, oi, oi. Yeah. it's a whole thing. My line of work, I meet so many Australians every day. It's incredible. They love coming to Hollywood and checking things out and seeing things. It's a whole thing. But Joe,
What? I'm sorry.
what can you say? You had our whole studio in Whitesburg. You were doing all the podcasts and stuff. What happened to all that equipment? Did you sell it off or what? I checked
I still
eBay
have
and I
it.
thought I checked eBay and I thought I saw your mixer on there. It had Blue Men stickers on it all over it.
It wasn't mine.
yours. Wasn't yours? Okay.
No, I don't.
So-
I don't put Blue Man stickers on my my electronics.
electronics.
It's really funny because I want to make a mission here that I've been kind of pressuring Joe to, hey Joe, let's do something. Let's do a project. And Joe is steadfast. Joe has moved on. Joe's got stuff, and he's really busy. And again, he's moved on to stuff. And to have you on with us today, Joe, is really a blessing. I'm honored, and it's wonderful. You've been an inspiration to both Brett and myself and many others. The guests we've had, I mean, I could name a ton of them, and they were all really good interviews, and the relationships were all really, really good all the way around. And I'm grateful for that.
I'm grateful for you, Mike.
Yeah.
I have a lot to thank for you. I mean, it's just for what you've done on Switchback and the talent that you brought forth and just the memories and doing that. But like you said, I have moved on, and I'm very steadfast at that. I know where my place is now, and I know what I need to be doing. And sometimes you have to take a look and take a step back at your life and look at those kinds of avenues that bear fruit. And if you're doing something that you don't like doing and it's not making you happy, then you need to change it up.
Right. Change it. I'm with Joe on that one.
And so,
well, if you decide you ever want to, if you decide you ever want to join us to do stuff, a segment or whatnot, you're always welcome. Our door is always open.
Well, if you do segments on areas of my expertise, which is medical, and you all know those problems, then yeah, I'll be in on it. I'm not sure if I'll I don't know. It's just I give it up and we'll see what happens.
And you keep mentioning your problem, but again, there are a lot of people that have the same issues that you have or have gone through that. So really, there's an inspiration factor too, and certainly I can see down the road having you on and discussing this more.
I'm sure you would want me on the radio. I'm sure.
Yeah,
you
and
would.
as new medicines and new
it's like it's Joe Burke. I gotta get him. Oh my god.
Yeah. We will just come to your front door with a microphone and say, Joe, come on, talk to us, please.
Yeah.
What about the medicine?
I'll show up on his pound on his front door with a with my little H1 recorder. Joe.
He'll stick those chihuahuas after you.
Right.
Let me set the record straight for both of you. If you come to my door at 9 a.m., 9 times out of 10, you're going to see my button boxers. So I'm not sure if it's something you want to see.
Wouldn't be the first time, Joe.
You want to?
Yeah.
That is.
I just had a visual there.
It would not be the first.
Brett has seen my glory, and it is beautiful.
Excuse me? Wait,
well,
whoa.
Never mind. No.
Do we really want to go?
Brett has seen what?
There's some weird things that go on in the.
Yeah,
there's some weird things that go on at these fan meetings.
Have you ever tasted the rainbow, Dowler? Do you know what it feels like to have a skull in your mouth?
Yeah.
Only yours.
Oh my god. What about a chocolate pudding drop?
Gross.
Anyway, yeah, you're welcome.
After show.
Anyway, no.
Anyway, Joe.
But yeah, I'm done. I'm actually done.
It's you pretty much finished it off. I mean, and then I was looking for. But again, conversations is all about the guest.
Let me say this before I go. Both of you guys, Godspeed on this adventure. I want to see it excel. I want to see it succeed. And thank you for having me on. And thank you for our friendships for almost a decade. I treasure it. I value it. I don't take it for granted. You guys are awesome. You need to listen to this podcast, get plugged in, do everything you can to support it.
Thank you for that, Joe. We appreciate you being our first guest on here, man. It's been, as always, it's been a pleasure. And we'll have you on again soon, I'm sure.
You be
All
well.
right, Joe. You have a good night, man. Be well, and we'll chat with you later.
Man, happy Halloween.
Happy
Kwanzaa. We celebrate Kwanzaa. But...
Yeah. Okay. Good.
Yeah. No, actually, we're Jewish. No, we're not Jewish. Shalom.
You're not Jewish. Well, we're all Jewish, really, but that's okay.
Right.
All right, Joe. Joe Burke,
right.
Thank you, sir.
All right, man. Happy Easter.
Have a good night.
Have a good night, Joe.
So long. My goodness. Well, that was good.
All right. That was fun.
Good radio for sure.
So, Mike, I've got some good news here. We do have another podcast coming our way. Actually, 2 more in the works right now. One of them's a current podcast from that I'm working with a good friend of mine, Mike Means. He facilitates the recording of this, and he's got one. I believe it's called London Calling with Ace London. Is going to be featured exclusively on our site.
Awesome.
And my wife and I are actually looking at creating a podcast together, and we know what direction we want to go with it. We're just trying to come up with some ideas on, what a name for the show. But
was this the one about the national parks?
Yeah, it'd be about
Right.
traveling and working and living in the national parks and what you need to know. It's not just for people that have lived there or are looking at living there. It's also for tourists, give information for the tourists so they know, that the parks are out there. Get the word out about these beautiful places that are right in your backyard that a lot of times people forget about. I mean, I
Right.
myself, I've worked in 2 different national parks. I've worked in the Grand Teton National Park, well, obviously, and lived there at the same time, and then also the South Rim of the Grand Canyon. My wife's worked in, I believe, 6 national parks now,
Jeez.
and that's what she spent the bulk of her time doing after she got out of college. And
So when she works there, is it like a docent thing, or is it like a ranger?
no, we both were working for concessionaires. They run the
Oh, okay.
hotels and the restaurants and
Oh,
this and that and the mule rides and whatnot and what have you. But she introduced me to it. I legitimately, up until I met her, oh God, 3 years, just over almost 3.5 years ago now. Wow, it's really been that long. Yeah.
what a joy that is! Our national parks, of course, really are a treasure. So much to do in the United States and Canada as well, and that should be very interesting, actually.
Yeah, it'll be it'll be a lot of fun. We're gonna have different folks that have worked in the parks on. You just gotta stay tuned on that one and keep your eyes on the website, guys. It'll be posted up here before you know it.
Again,
And
nextbigradio.net, also the
.net.
home of Conversations, and that will be airing once a week, hopefully. With
Yeah, well,
guests
that's the plan,
all over the
anyways.
world. Yeah, and that was Joe was our first Conversations guest, so don't make that rub you the wrong way. But
Yeah, right.
it was a
Joe's a lot of fun, and
yeah. Please like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. If you have any comments, go ahead and send us an email. nextbigthingradio@gmail.com. We'd love to hear
Twitter
from you.
handle is at NBT Radio. And Facebook.com/Next Big Thing Radio is our Facebook page, so check us out there as well.
Awesome.
And we're all set to go on there. You can find all of our contact information on the website. If you guys had any suggestions for guests, or we'll announce who our upcoming guests are each week on our Facebook page, our Twitter page, as well as our website. We'll have a little blurb about the guest and links that'll be featured. If you wanted to go visit any of the sites from that Joe discussed today, they'll be right up on our website, nextbigthingradio.net.
Sounds great. And
My
we
name is
are out
Brett.
of time. Just about. Do want to mention one thing, though. I know in the wings coming soon, Bonnie Gordon will be joining us. Bonnie Gordon was one of the, I don't want to say contestant, I want to say participant in an ABC show called The Quest. Described to me as kind of like cross between The Hobbit and The Amazing Race. Did you get a chance to watch it, Brett?
I did not. I'm gonna have to look that one up. I haven't heard of that one yet, but
So Bonnie Gordon is
gotta-
a Los Angeles resident, and we're going to have her on to talk about the show. And just a phenomenal human being as well. So watch out for that. And a few other things I'm working on trying to confirm. So we will get that going. Anyway, guys, thanks for listening. Tell your friends about it. nextbigthingradio.net. And this is Conversations. Have a great night or a great day whenever you're listening. And Brett, all the best to you as well. All righty.
You have been listening to Conversations on nextbigthingradio.net. Tune in next week when actor Robbie Rist joins us.